Welcome back, everybody. Jaysin Static with another episode of the interview series. I am Jaysin Static. You, sir, are?
I'm Elride, the one-man zoo.
Woo, awesome. How long have you been in the industry, Elride?
This will be going on 11 years.
11 years, so you've been around for a good while.
For a while.
And I know, because we were just talking off camera, that you've seen a couple of these interviews, so you know this deal. I've got 2 questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm excited. Let's do this.
All right, first question. If you had to select a relatively unknown wrestler to the masses from the past and or present to compete in a 1-hour Broadway, who would you choose and why?
That's a good one. Relatively unknown.
From the past or present?
I'm gonna go with one who I watched as a kid when I started in the backyard, like a lot of people did. So, and he was in a backyard thing.
Yeah.
Now he's on the indies, but I don't think that I've never heard a lot of people pronounce his name. But his name is Matt DeMorest.
Ooh, okay.
I loved Matt DeMorest. He came up with innovative moves that were like the weirdest way of fusing moves that I've loved, and it made it for matches to be unique in every manner. And that's the guy who I would like. It'd be that kind of like childhood, hey, I'm learning to be a wrestler. I'm watching this guy who's learning to be a wrestler in our own ways, not the traditional path.
Is he still out on the indies today?
He's still out on the indies. I don't think he wrestles as often as other wrestlers. I don't see him as active, but I know he took on Billy Starks in last year.
Oh, okay.
And it was a crazy match. And he's a pretty decent sized guy. He's not a very small guy. He's a bigger guy. And so he'd be one who I think would just be obscure enough that people who don't know him should know.
Right. And that's kind of the basis of the question is like, you know, with how wrestling is and it's so vast and wide, like especially if you're talking like mid 2000s, early 2000s, you know, with the advent of YouTube and the backyard wrestling feds that came up, and then the popularity of backyard wrestling
it's regrown to where people are liking backyard wrestling when they always talk. When I started, I was in the backyard. Everyone was talking trash on it.
Yeah.
Everyone looked down on it, and now it's being revived, and everybody, even in the watching AEW and stuff, love it. It's like now people don't talk trash on it because a lot of these people are respectfully becoming professional wrestlers that are respected.
Yeah, something I talked to PT about, and you know PT pretty well.
I was his first trainer.
Yeah, something that I talked to PT about is I think some of the mindset in wrestling industry today of shunning the backyard guys, personally I think that's a wrong thing to do. I think what we should do as people who are in the professional wrestling realm, I think we should try to influence those guys to actually come into the fold and actually get trained the proper way.
Exactly.
That way they don't get hurt. They don't have the liabilities of, I mean, you're obviously you still have the liability of potentially getting hurt, but you essentially gain the knowledge of doing it safer.
Like myself and Chris Exodus started CHWA, and we were kids on a trampoline. We didn't know what we were doing. Yeah. But we did eventually. I met Devin Gable. He was Devin Cutter of the Goldens. And he was the one who told me where to go to train. Right. I told my brother, and that's where we went and trained for a while. It didn't work out because of finances. Right. So we started taking our friends who wanted to wrestle, and we taught them the bits we did learn. And that helped us all grow better. And then me and Chris eventually came years later and got the money, and we went back to training. And we got better and better. Now we're one of the highly recognized companies in the area. Because we started from a backyard. We were the trash of the area. Everyone hated on us. Yep, I remember. And now we're getting that highly respected, and people like to come to our shows.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is back when you guys were starting your little rise up in the CHWA, I was out of the Midwest area. Yes. Like I wasn't living in the Midwest area, but I was still watching all of the stuff, all the companies from the Midwest area. So I was seeing you guys getting all that hate, and I was just like, man, like, why don't people just bring these kids into the fold? Like, and that's something like I did backyard stuff whenever I was young. Everybody who's anybody in the wrestling industry has done backyard stuff in some way, shape, or form. They wrestled with their dads. They wrestled with their friends on the ground, in the yards, on trampolines, in pools, and shit like that. Hell, the Hardys started in the backyard.
Made their own company with the tree trunks for posts.
Yeah, so like
garden hose.
I think the stigma that backyard people have, I think it's a toxic thing that people use to shun people in the industry, and we shouldn't be shunning people in the industry. We should be wanting to bring people into the industry.
Arms should be more open in this industry and show the way, so that they can be better protected, so they can do things and have a better longevity in the career.
Yeah.
Versus, screw you, you're not going to be anything better. You're going to just be a kid who messed around in the yard.
Yeah, and
if they do, and they want to do that you're just going to keep you're either going to fire them up, like we did.
Yep.
And we just kept on doing everything to spite those people, and then we eventually did get to where we are now. Like I said, if we're counting my professional career, it's been going on over 10 years. But I technically wrestled longer without that full experience I had.
Right.
And that was in that backyard days.
Yep.
So if I included my backyard days, I'd probably been going closer to 15 up to even maybe 20 years.
Okay, wow.
But it wasn't as, I wouldn't recognize it as much because it's so much not as knowledgeable skill. I learned. You gain a different respect for what it is to be a professional in the industry compared to as when you're just a fan and you're doing the backyard stuff. You gain a different type of respect for it. Precisely.
Yep. Appreciate that first question, man. All right, the one-man zoo. Are you ready for the second question?
Ecstatically.
Ooh, perfect. What is the most memorable fan interaction or encounter that has left a lasting impact on you that you've had in your 10 to 11 years in the industry? What's the number one impact?
That one's actually quite simple for me to go straight to. I was wrestling for Dynamo Pro Wrestling in St. Louis. They were holding a show that was part of a taco and margarita festival.
Right.
And I wrestled Ricky Cruz.
Yep.
And I'm the baby face. Everybody is hating on him. There's a bunch of these kids around the one side of the ring.
Right.
And they are just hating him. They he's choking me throughout the entire match nonstop.
Yeah.
He ended up winning the match. I got caught by a cutter. 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And as I'm walking, I get out of the ring. I'm making my way up to get up the stage and get out of there and everything.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 of these little kids run from around what was basically the barricade without barricades to talk, and they're like, "You were so close, you almost had it," and they're like giving me props. And then I watch as every single one of those kids.
Yeah.
I'm saying it looks like when you watch videos of a herd of ducks flying out of a barn. There's those iconic videos where you see ducks that are flooded a street. It felt like that with just children, and they all came in and they gave me a huge group hug.
Oh, that's
and they
awesome.
were giving me bouncy balls and rubber ducks that they had.
That's
funny.
funny.
These are for you. And I go backstage and I have 3 rubber ducks in my hand. I have my arm full of these bouncy balls, and I still have them. And I just go, and there's pictures of me with these kids, and that was something where I realized I made an impact.
Yeah.
And I made a connection with a crowd, and not your typical demographic for wrestling, but children. I mean, these are not even maybe first grade kids. These are young kids.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I made a connection that made you guys enjoy a show that is considered violent and considered sometimes as not family friendly, no matter how much we try to be.
Right.
And I never can look back at a time and not imagine if I can do it to where I have 1 kid in the crowd.
Right.
Feel like any of those.
Yeah.
My career is made for life.
And that's something to harken back on that. That's something that I try to tell everybody that I come across is what we do in the industry is sell emotions. The moves, the stories, and everything like that. You could teach anybody how to do that stuff.
You can be a robot that does every single move in the book, and people can think, oh, that's cool. But if you don't look them in the eye as you're down and that guy is just wailing on you and wailing on you,
crap out
and as he walks away to go and hold his hands up like, look, who's the man? And you look at one person in the front row. You look them in the eye, and they see that you are trying your absolute best.
Yep.
They link with you.
Yep.
They become part of that match now. They're not the person just sitting in the crowd. They're the one that you're reaching for a rope as they're dragging you to put you in a leg lock.
Yeah.
And you want to get to that rope so you can get out of the ring and get away from them. And you can see that genuine
You can see the spark
of they want you to win. Or
Yeah.
They want you out of there. They want you to get up and fight. And they are reaching their hands over barricades, trying to reach for you so they can feel like they're grabbing and pulling you to that rope.
Right.
It's spiritual.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You see that little glint, that little glimmer in their eye, whether it's a kid or even an adult that does it. When you're able to get that whenever you're able to get that type of emotion from somebody, that's the same type of emotion that we got back in the day when we were like, oh yeah, we want to become professional wrestlers.
Exactly.
Because
it's like a static spark.
Yeah,
to play on your name. A spark.
It's a
that
different
just hits, and you feel that connection of like, it's like watching a cartoon or something where you see two lines of sparks hit clash.
Right.
As soon as that happens, is when those eyes connect.
Yeah.
And they feel it.
Yeah.
And now they're involved.
You essentially
and they want to come more.
Yeah, right there, right at that particular moment, you form an emotional connection to that person. Like I remember back in the day, whenever I first started, not when I first started watching wrestling, but when I first seen the Great Muta.
I took the Muta because of
Great Muta. Great Muta was one of my top all-time favorites. I have a wild list of all-time favorites. It's a list that most people probably wouldn't have. Mm-hmm. But Great Muta's on that list. And I don't know what it was about Great Muta. It was just the aura of him in the paint, the costuming. And I was just like, holy shit, this dude is fucking amazing.
Yes.
And it was one of those things. I think what it was is I was a big fan of martial arts movies back in the day whenever I was a kid. So being able to find wrestling and finding Great Muta and stuff like that, and then also guys,
best of those two worlds.
It was the best of it was the molding of those two worlds. So that's one of the guys that helped bring me into the industry. He didn't bring me into the industry, but he was like one of the guys who was like, yes, I want to definitely try to do this shit.
Absolutely.
But man, I appreciate this first question. Do you have anything to promote? Websites, merch sites, shows, upcoming shows?
No merch. OMZ Elright on Instagram. Switch it around to Elright OMZ on X, Twitter, whatever people want to call it. John Holt Yo 10 is the biggest event of CHWA and my career. It's a whole decade of all the work from my backyard to now. Mm-hmm. And I'm putting in more work than I ever have toward this event. And that'll be on the 13th and 14th of September at the Sports Complex in Glen Carbon. I'll be at Granite Cities for the Elks Lodge for IEW on the 7th. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple other companies that I'm up in the air on details. Real quick,
just to finish this out, do you want to give me why is I know the reasoning behind the name of John Holt. Do you want to tell me and the people here that's going to be watching this later, why is John Holt such a big show for you guys here at CHW?
Oh, I would love to. Hopefully I don't go over your 15-minute interview.
Hey, man, it'd be worth it.
But John Holt was my older brother.
Yep.
He was diagnosed with brain cancer at a young age, early 20s.
Okay.
I lived with him throughout his whole diagnosis, his chemotherapies, everything. If it wasn't for John Holt saying, hey, bro, run inside, grab your camera. I want to film you as your friends are wrestling on a trampoline.
Yeah.
CHWA wouldn't exist.
Right.
We wouldn't be having the friends and the connections. We wouldn't be a lot of us probably wouldn't be wrestling.
Right.
Because we would have lost that motivation that we would have had.
Right. He was your motivation. He was your drive.
And he beat cancer, was in remission. He came back harder and stronger. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, one of the last things that happened was he was moving to Pennsylvania where his dad lives.
Right.
And he was going to live with the parents and try to get more treatment out there because it just seemed like a stalemate here.
Right.
And he made sure to stall so I could get off work and make it home to say goodbye. And he said his final words were, don't worry, I'll be back. I'm beating this.
Yeah.
To where I woke up one day before going to work, hearing my mom get that phone call that he had not made it past him to sleep.
Yeah.
And John was the most lighthearted, kindest, caring person. He wanted to make a homeless shelter because he had been homeless. He was a former felon, so he knew how it was to be in like times of trying to find a job while being considered a felon.
Yep.
He had done all these things, but you would never have known it. He had the biggest smile. He had the greatest energy. He would sing the goofy songs. He would dance every dance that he knew. And he would always be there for you to be an open ear.
Yeah.
And to know that I'm making it to where my brother can still be carried out in memory. Oh, it's getting me emotional. Yeah. But for a decade, to be able to say that I'm still doing a show and now I have all these friends and I have all these, like my mentors are being part of it. Friends who have been champions in multiple companies are being part of it.
Right.
And it's like, I never could have imagined it.
Right.
I never could have fathomed it. So this is the year where we got to go bigger than we've ever gone.
Absolutely, man.
It's John Holt's not just about John anymore. It's named after him, but we do it for everyone we lost. Grandparents, sisters, brothers, anybody. We carry that energy in us every John Holt, and everyone goes the hardest they've ever gone. We go all out, and so it's very much cherished, and it's more than words.
Guys, I appreciate you, Elride, man. Thank you for talking about that. I know sometimes that shit's hard, but I wanted to show people the emotional side of what wrestling is, because we make those emotions and we make those connections, and there was a connection and there's a reasoning why you have that show. But we're going to finish this thing out like we always do, and I'm going to keep this one short because I don't want to taint what we just talked about. Everybody, go check out Fight Club Wrestling Academy on YouTube. That's where we're at. That's where you're seeing. Make sure you comment below. Make sure you show Elride some love. Make sure you guys support John Holt Yo. Make sure you guys go check that out. And go check out weare138co.com. That's the website where you can find my merch, Fight Club's merch, and 138 streetwear, wrestling-based stuff. Check us out. Peace out, everybody. Elride, take care, brother.
Thank you.